Which is harder, being a founder or being an investor?
Being a founder is so much harder. Investors have their own worries. We've done both. You got to raise money, you got to create a product that entrepreneurs like. But the existential dread of being an entrepreneur, of waking up and not knowing where your next client is, who's going to quit, how you're going to fill this hole in your team, that is just such a different experience. And having lived both, there's no doubt that entrepreneurs have a much harder job than investors.
Hey, business leaders and marketers, what if your brand could be featured right here? This ad spot could be yours. This channel is watched by a dedicated audience of ambitious founders, executives, and professionals who are actively looking for tools and services to help their business grow. If you want to put your brand in front of this highly dedicated audience that's difficult to reach, I'm currently looking for a few strategic partners for the channel. To learn more about sponsorship opportunities, click the link in the description. Let's grow together. So I actually interviewed a guy a long time ago who was a VC, quit to become an entrepreneur, and then quit to go back to being a VC because he said the same thing.
So I love both. However, you're not an investor unless you have money. And so once you have the money, it's about making the right decisions and supporting the entrepreneurs. And the rest is really out of your hands. When you're the entrepreneur, you are responsible for whether it's five people at your company or 5,000. You're responsible for those people. You're responsible for kind of getting to the future faster. And there's just pressure that is different. Having said that, I love being an entrepreneur more. I love suffering more than sitting around and just deploying capital. And the suffering of an entrepreneur is where you find your purpose and your passion in life if you're an entrepreneur.
But aren't you currently focused as a VC?
We do both. We have a VC business, which you know, about 400 million assets under management, Velvet Sea Ventures. We also have our own private equity business where we're buying cash flow businesses. So we own businesses. And so we're running those businesses. And the book process, which we kind of wrote a book and then it became a New York Times bestseller, that felt like a company. And so we're basically scratching both itches. I will tell you that our suffering and our concerns come more from owning the businesses than just the investment side.
Yeah, I've spoken recently to several PE firms, and they are thinking about buying companies and having to raise money from other people because they're not independently wealthy. So they've got to raise money from people to go buy those businesses and to prove that they can run those businesses. And so their concerns were similar, where they're like, yeah, they didn't have both of the founders hadn't previously opened a business, and I said, how do you justify buying a business when you don't really have experience running a business? He's like, but my PE firm is a business. I'm running a business.
It is a business. So our venture capital firm is a business. We had to go out and raise capital. We then had to like deploy it into entrepreneurs who we really believed in. It's just a different type of business. If you are fortunate enough to be a venture capitalist, it's the best business model ever. You get paid a fee to manage the money and you get a piece of the upside, typically 20% after you return your capital. Our buying businesses, that's all our capital. We're responsible for the teams. We feel like we're part of the team. So it's just a different type of business. But if you look at people who've built great venture businesses or PE businesses, they're entrepreneurs. So you can't say that whether it's Devin Perek at Insight or Josh Kushner at Thrive, they've built businesses as an entrepreneur, but they're very unique in their space.
Are you taking the profit from the VC firm to fund the PE firm?
I mean, it's all in one bucket. So Cass and I have worked together for 30 years. We have, done 8 businesses. And so, I wouldn't say we're taking one to fund the other. I would say that our success as an entrepreneur, where we made, boatloads of cash, that has powered our ability to then go find deals and buy companies. Whereas the venture capital business, even though a big portion of the money is our money, we also have outside investors. So, success breeds success. But what we like about it is on one side, it's all about innovation and the future and deep tech and software and AI and Liquid Death and some other brands that we love. And then on the other side, we're talking about boring businesses. So an executive search business that's been around for 25 years with 2,200 clients and 6,500 successful placements. That's a business that generates cash that if you just serve the customer well, do what you say, and in that case, hire A-list talent, you'll continue to grow it, which is why we love it. So it's this barbell approach that as investors and entrepreneurs, we love.
What's been the thing that you've enjoyed the most working on? Which brand?
Man, oh man. I mean, we have 100 deals on the venture side, both personally and through the fund. And I think the most enjoyable part of that is working with entrepreneurs and seeing them succeed. So there's nothing better than seeing an entrepreneur grind it out, suffer, get to the other side and reach their dreams, whether it's being a public company, which we've, done, or, a big exit, like the $5 billion exit that Scopely, one of our seed investments, had to Savvy Games. Liquid Death is a really great example of here's a creative director, Mike Cesario, who comes up with an idea to market a wellness product, water, in a very novel, innovative way across social media. Did we think it was going to be $1 billion plus company? We thought it could be a big company, but seeing him succeed has given us a lot of just personal enjoyment since we were there from pre-launch in the beginning. And then on the owning business side, it's really seeing people reach their full potential. So it's all about people. It's all about, where are you today? Where do you want to be? And we've just worked with great people like Dina Ufberg, who's the COO of that business, who came from tech and wanted to run her own business. And, she's just done a phenomenal job. So it's just seeing people succeed. And we love that.
What are you most excited about for the future?
The number one thing I'm excited about is boring businesses that use AI to streamline processes, to find new customers, to communicate in a better way. And we just think that although all of this discussion about AI has been focused on open AI and these multi-billion-dollar platforms, it's the plumbers, it's the painters, it's executive search firms, it's the accountants, it's the small law firms that are going to use this technology. And if you are owning a business today, even if you have 3 employees, how do you use this technology to automate a lot of the stuff that, frankly, you hate doing? Like
Mm.
stuff that you don't love doing, whether it's cold outreach, whether it's kind of inventory, right? So I was just talking to a small business owner who has a retail store in New York City, and they're automating all of their rebuying of inventory. So it used to be you'd spend hours like walking through the store, and this company has like thousands of SKUs. So I'm not going to talk about what it is, but it's in kind of like the crafting space and has a lot of stuff. And so now he gets 4 hours a week back because he's able to say, oh, we're low on this. We should order this. And then using the technology to understand like what's selling fast. What should they ramp up? What areas of the store should they repurpose for other things? And so this technology, like we both were probably on AI right before this interview, right? I know I was. And whether
Yeah.
you're building apps, whether I was just building a dashboard on Lovable, um, use the technology. And if you aren't doing it today, your competition will. They'll get to the future faster and they'll just have a better business.
I've been saying this for at least a year, maybe a year and a half. I've been screaming at everyone I can. He runs SEO agency. I think it's an 8-figure agency. And he's using AI and everything that he possibly can for that agency, serving customers, processes, etc. He has another business that buys boring businesses that AI is not going to disrupt. And I think you two have a very similar philosophy. He goes straight out there and says, I use AI, you need to use AI, but I'm only going to buy businesses that AI is not going to destroy. And he says plumber businesses, HVAC businesses, you can use AI to make those businesses more efficient. And so he's probably looking to buy from guys that are in their 60s and 70s and the kids don't want anything to do with it. And so someone younger can come in and make things automated, make them more efficient, make them more profitable, possibly, add revenue to. Even if you don't, it's still cash flow. If it's a, 2 million, 5 million a year, it's still going to be profit.
Yeah.
So I think you have a very similar philosophy as him.
And it's not, other technology was not accessible to people who weren't technologists, right? Like, you're not going to build an iPhone app. This is the best technology for whoever you are. If you're an 80-year-old running a business, whether it's a law firm, an accounting firm, if you have a beginner's mind, which I know a lot of you have, you can use this technology. Like Alan Patricoff, who was one of the Buddy Media investors. He invented venture capital, or helped invent venture capital with Apex Partners. He has a new fund focused on the aging of America, primetime partners, and they're using AI across everything because you don't need to be a programmer. You need to be able to talk to the system. And how you do that is you just do it. You start communicating with these machines. Hey, I'm looking for a way to score investment pitches that are coming my way. What's the best way to do it? Well, here's some ideas. If I were to use that, what's the scale from 1 to 5 I should be focused on, right? It's like this co-pilot thing that you're just talking, and don't be scared. There's no reason to be scared. Just start using it. And the more you use it, the more excited you get. I've seen it hundreds of times now.
I'm going to throw you a curveball. You may have been asked this question before, maybe not. It's something that I've felt and struggled with, and I think you might have experienced it as well, which is why I want to ask. When I had a consulting business that did 8 figures, I obviously walked away with a lot of money from that. Enough that I felt like I was lost. I lost my sense of purpose in a way. Like, I don't need to work anymore. Should I? What should I do? How should I feel? Like, what should I do about this? And, I know that you had really large exits. So I was wondering if after one of those exits, you kind of felt lost, you felt disconnected, or you felt numb, or, you know,
So yes, I mean all the above, and I've spent a lot of time with founders and their organizations like Chapter X that actually are focused on like founders post exit. I was at one of their events in LA earlier this year, and a very big founder sold the business for over $1 billion and made hundreds of millions. Yeah, he said flat out, I'd give the money back in a second just to get my company back and find my purpose again. I said, would you really? Let's be serious about this. And what happens is, and you hear about this, but when you experience it, it really hits hard. The money doesn't change you for the most part. You realize that life is not about the money, it's about the passion, the purpose, the waking up in the morning and having a place to go. And we all feel lost. I did. So I haven't talked about this, but after I left Salesforce, we sold to Salesforce close to $1 billion. I spent close to 4 years there, loved it, still love the company. And then I was burned out, and I went to Mark Benioff. I said, I'm going to take some time off. And I got a painting studio in New York City. Cass, my wife, actually got it. And I was just miserable because I was bad at painting. I wasn't doing what I was put on this earth to do. I didn't have any sort of purpose, even though I was working on a series of paintings based on my entrepreneurial experience. And it was a good like 3 years that I was looking for my way, which is why I jumped back into being a founder and started a company that ended up not working out, and launching the venture fund and getting to the point where I was like, I work for a living. It's what I do. It's who I am. It's why I'm here. And The other thing that happens when you make money is other people start treating you very differently. I don't know if this was your experience. They think you're smarter. They think you somehow have changed their expectations, good or bad. You know, we always pick up the bill, and we always, even when we didn't have money, we just think it's like we love taking people out to dinner and like treating when we can. I mean, now it's like for some friends, you like fight over the bill, whatever. But there are expectations from some about how you spend your money. Um, a lot of inbound asks, a lot of inbound investment opportunities. Saying no is hard. We made a lot of bad investments because we weren't strong enough to say no to certain people who maybe have supported us in the past. And so it just took a little kind of getting back on our feet. However, it's like these are first world problems, right? Like these are, you have all the issues in the world. They're awesome issues. We're talking about like identity. We're not talking about how do I feed a family. We're talking about what do I do with my day versus how do I get out of bed because, you know, I'm paralyzed. I have health issues, right? So we're constantly reminding ourselves that we're the luckiest people in the world. We have our health. We have great relationships, including, you know, our marriage. Cass and I work together. And no matter how down we get, and we got down just yesterday, we're like, man, we're doing so much shit that we hate. Like literally, like stuff that we're doing with our businesses that we're like, how are we in this position that we're spending our time doing stuff that we really don't love? And then we come back and we just say, it's because we're entrepreneurs. We show up, we shovel shit. Like there is no like just do the thing you love. You also have to tend to the store and tend to people and be present. And a lot of rich people, when they retire, they say they, yeah, I have one friend who just sold a, you know, a bunch of medical practices, and he sold it sub, like below the market price to his partners, incidentally, and said, listen, I'm going to sell this to you for a steal. It was a lot of money, but still like not top dollar. Our deal is you never call me. Don't call me for anything. I don't want to be involved. And what he realized is that his day was just like, you know, at 40 of these medical practices, it was just doing the shoveling of shit, the grunt work, which had got him down after 60 years. He's an older gentleman. You know, and having said that, like if your biggest issues are like finding your purpose, game on. Because there are plenty of ways you can find your purpose, whether it's through philanthropy, new businesses, investing, giving back, teaching. You know, we've looked at all of those.
So I didn't have the same kind of experience you did in terms of people changing how they treat me, because I didn't like when you sold your company, I'm sure there was press coverage, right? Because it was a large enough amount of money that people hear about
Yeah,
it.
the largest exit in New York City in 10 years when we sold.
Right. I made money very quietly and there was no press about it. And so nobody knew that anything had changed unless I told them. And the few people that I told were like my parents, my brother, my wife. We were dating at the time. So she was with me when that business started to blow up, and I was like, "Yeah, she's a good luck charm. I should keep her around."
Smart man.
And that's why we're married now. And of the few people, like there's some friends that like they know that I've made money, but they have no idea what the details are. But these are people I've known for like 20, 30 years, you know. And the people that know me that are I've only known for a few years, like from Vietnam or from Portugal, they don't know anything. They know I run a podcast. If any of them listen to the podcast, they'll hear me talk about it. But if they don't listen, which a lot of them didn't even know I had a podcast, which is fine. But basically, I just don't tell people. And I dress like I live in a, you know, I don't live in a fancy place. I don't have a car. I don't buy fancy things. So I dress like a middle class and I act like a middle class. I mean, you know, they see like I go and I spend a few months in the US, I spend a few months in Portugal, I go to Japan. Like they can see that I'm able to spend money, but nobody treats me any different. And I like it because I have a lot of friends that work for other people and I like them and I like spending time with them, but I also have friends that run their own businesses. Some of them make millions of dollars a year, and others, they make less. But uh, my goal has been I want to keep my anonymity to the best that I can. Again, being on YouTube, how anonymous are you? But I can travel around and nobody knows who I am. I can make friends and nobody knows who I am. No, so I can kind of keep those things for myself.
You're only 300 episodes in. Let's give it 2 years and people will recognize you everywhere on this globe. I've seen it before. You have it, whatever it is.
Mm. And in terms of purpose, so like what was really funny was I was on the Nile River cruise from southern Egypt up to northern Egypt. It was like a four-day cruise. And I woke up one day on the cruise. I was getting dressed to go outside of my room. I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I go, "You're making so much money, you don't know how to spend it all. You're traveling the world. You're literally living the life that you want. Why do you feel empty?" And I realized it was because the business that I had didn't make me feel good. I did it because I could. I did it because the money was there, and I did it because there was a demand, and people kept coming to me and asking me for me to do it. But I didn't care about it. And that's when I lost my sense of purpose. And then like 2 months later, the industry changed. It was in the blockchain space. The industry changed, and I lost all my revenue. I lost my ability to generate revenue with that business because everybody like lost their ability to spend, just cash dried up. And then I had to change into something else. And so now I was relieved of this fear of doing something that I didn't really care about. But then the ability to keep making that money stopped, where I had been making that kind of money for 2 years. And I was like, oh, so I don't have to have this problem of I don't like what I do, but now I have this problem of I'm not making any money anymore. Now, my expenses didn't really change, right? I wasn't suddenly spending, $20,000 a month or 100,000, like even today, this happened 8, 9 years ago. I'm still only spending like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Like my life hasn't changed. Now I did do like a zero gravity flight, which was like 15 grand. Like I've done a few things that are nice. I did laser eye surgery for 6 grand. Um, but like my life hasn't changed, except I can continue to have the freedom to be where I want to be and do what I want to be. And I don't have to work if I don't want to, but I do. And so I've kind of gotten past it where I had this sense of like, I don't really want to work. But now being married and we want to have a kid, I'm like, okay, I need to make money because my wife won't be happy if I don't. And my kid won't have the life that I want them to have if, because inflation is going crazy and all, money is like, you know, money is losing purchasing power very quickly. So in order to protect your net worth, like you have to keep working. You just have to keep creating value and earning money, which sucks. It's like a hamster wheel, but it's a different kind of hamster wheel.
Well, there are two ways to be rich. You make a boatload of money, more than you could ever spend, or you don't spend a lot of money. And I think you've lived both,
Yeah.
right? Like you are rich because you're able to not spend a lot of money and you made some money. So you have some freedom there. I think money at the end of the day is great. It buys security, it buys health, at least in the US. Healthcare is now a luxury product, and it buys freedom. It buys you the freedom to do what you want. It buys you the ability to get your time back. You literally could buy back your time, right? Like by hiring people instead of doing your own booking, you can have an assistant. You can, we have a very small family office, but we don't do everything. We have a great team. And at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what type of life do you want? What's on your plate? What's not on your plate? We always wanted kids. So we had kids early when we had no money. We always wanted to give back. We started doing Cycle for Survival with raising money for cancer research close to 20 years ago. Before we had any money, now we've helped raise 400 million and have donated millions ourselves, right? And so you have to have a purpose no matter what. And that purpose has to be greater than yourself. If the purpose is, I just want to make money to spend more or to go on more expensive trips, you will be empty. We've seen it. We've felt it in many ways where we felt like we didn't have like our full purpose. We've never been without complete purpose, but we didn't feel like we were maximizing our potential. And so now people are who know us are like, why are you working so hard? You have this VC company, a PE firm. You wrote a book. You're doing podcasts. You're creating content. You're, you own a pickleball team. You own a golf team. You are doing more deals, right? You're announcing stuff, and we're doing it because we've made a decision to do it. We don't do anything without saying, does this push us forward? And B, it's just what we do. It's our purpose. Like, why did I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning in Chicago to do this? Because I love it, right? Like this is what we do. I feel like I'm now communicating to people who I don't know and who hopefully will at some point meet. And I think what you felt was that lack of like, you know, purpose bigger than me. Because me gets old, no matter who you are, like it just gets old thinking about yourself. And for me, at least, the more I think about myself, the darker the thoughts get,
Mm.
right? Like if I'm not working, I'm like, oh, I've gained weight. I got to do, or I've, you know, should I really be spending money on this? Or, why didn't this friend call me back? Right. It's like, but when I'm like working hard and I'm at my best, I'm looking at the best in others and I'm really not worried about myself. It's really worried about like these projects and other people. And our brains have a way of going, at least a lot of us, dark when it sits idle, right? When your brain is just sitting there thinking, it doesn't think of like great things a lot of time. It thinks about, man, I want a cheeseburger. Like, it's like, I want to do shit that's not good for me. And like the harder we work, the less money we spend, which is kind of the great thing. When we weren't working, we were like it was like, I don't know, let's go to like expensive lunches. Let's like we just were spending more money. And so it all starts with like find your purpose and your passion. That's really what that book was about, Shoveling Shit, a love story. It's like it's miserable being an entrepreneur, and it's where you find the most rewarding things in your life. That purpose, passion, social connections.
What was funny was I haven't taken, like, I've traveled, like last year I went to 5 different countries, right? And I spent like almost a month in each country. So I travel a lot, but I bring my laptop and I work as I go through these countries. So I'm traveling, I'm seeing things, I'm meeting people, but I'm still working. And my trip to Japan with my brother was the first time in probably 5 or 6 years that I legitimately took a holiday, because the time zone difference was so great that I just couldn't take calls. It's like 16 hours to LA, 14, 15, 16 hours to the US. Just couldn't take calls. And I was walking 6 and 7 hours a day. No joke. I like 25, 30,000 steps on average in Japan. And through all of it, I found that after like 4 or 5 days of like not working, I had so much time to think in Japan that I started working from my phone, because I brought my laptop, but I didn't work from the laptop. I brought it because we had to do some planning for like the next steps of the trip and things like that. And doing it from a phone is really difficult to do. Plus, like I would feel super naked and lost if I didn't have my laptop near me, even if it wasn't on. But I was using my phone, like I was using Gemini, I was using voice mode, and I was having conversations with Gemini because I got an idea for like several different businesses that I saw were thriving in Japan but didn't exist in the US. And so I was having Gemini interview me and talk about plans. And my brother was like, can you just be in the, like, we're in this beautiful ass forest in the middle of Japan. The trees are like, 500 feet tall. Can you just be in the moment? And I'm like, I'm trying. But like this, he's like, will it kill you to put the phone down for 5 minutes? I go, yes. I have to get this out of my head. And like, I was struggling with it.
But that's how you're hardwired. Like, yeah, I'm laughing because that's like me. Like, that's all entrepreneurs. I think back to there's this guy who was a, junior marketing manager at a company that sold coffee beans. And he says, there's a conference in Venice or Italy that I want to go to. I think it was Florence or Rome. And he goes over and he sees this like espresso culture and he comes back and he goes, we should just sell beans. We should like open up like cafes and actually make coffee and create a place for people to
Yeah, Starbucks.
convene. And the company's like, you're crazy. And it was Howard Schultz. And he said, fine, I'm going to do it myself. And he like literally he pitched Starbucks to his company that he was like a junior marketing person. And it was, I mean, the company was named Starbucks. And he launched it, did a few cafes, ended up buying this bean company, buying Starbucks and building it. And the power of getting out of your own routine and seeing how other people live, spend money, spend their time has led to trillions of dollars of value creation. And more importantly, passion. Howard didn't just want to sell coffee, he wanted to launch this kind of really exciting cafe business, right? My friend Mark Glasserman, who's spent a lot of time in Hill Country, Texas, brought Hill Country Barbecue to New York. The name of his concept is Hill Country Barbecue. Incredible barbecue, Texas barbecue in the middle of New York City and DC and some other places, right? And so what you're experiencing is if you're an entrepreneur, there's no other way. Like it goes back to that movie, The Crying Game, of why did the scorpion sting the frog on the way across the river, right? Because if he stings the frog, they both die. It's in his nature. He can't stop himself, the scorpion. So they both die. It's in your nature to think like that, which really resonates to me and I know to hundreds of entrepreneur friends of ours.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, what happened was I so I'm vegetarian, and it's really hard in Japan as a vegetarian to eat because they make everything with fish or meat inside of it. And so I found myself eating at a lot of the convenience stores. And 7-Eleven in particular had this lotus root snack. It's a plant from Asia. Generally, it's a Chinese plant, but it's all over Southeast Asia. And they had these dried, salted, they seasoned lotus in a cup that was vacuum sealed. And I found myself eating one or two of them a day because they were so delicious. And like, having lived in Asia for half my life, I've eaten lotus root before, so I knew what it was. And I was like, yeah, this is healthy, this is good, etc. And so after a few days of this, I'm like, this doesn't exist in the US, but it's such a healthy, nutritious, and delicious plant, or it's like a tuber, I guess. This is something that could be a healthy snack in the US.
It's high fiber. It tastes good. Yeah.
Right. So what I did was I asked Gemini, I said, tell me about the difference between the nutrition facts between potatoes and lotus roots. I want to see if there's something marketable here. And it said high fiber. And I didn't think about it in the moment. But then also in Japan, I pay for YouTube Premium, so I can download videos locally to my phone. So I would like watch videos on the train or stuff like that when we didn't have access to internet. And there was an interview from the My First Million podcast. I don't know if you've heard of it. I listen to them sometimes. And they were doing an interview with this guy who has launched several $100 million plus brands or $1 billion brands, or has invested in these when they were really early and helped them to scale. And he had this playbook. And at the same time, they had a challenge where the hosts and him off air before they recorded, decided to come up with a few random ideas for things that could be disruptive in the e-commerce space. And they mentioned high fiber as being like Metamucil could be disrupted because it's meant for old people. And like, the guy was talking about how his mom was visiting and she needed her Metamucil, and he went to go buy it and he saw how horrible the packaging is and how it's geared towards older people, but younger people like us, like I'm 39, my parents take Metamucil. We're thinking about our health now, right? I'm getting ready, hopefully we'll have a kid next year. So we'll be thinking about our health much more. And and that clicked with me because the other guys agreed with him that fiber was something that could be disruptive. And I went back to my Gemini chat and I realized that the same weight of a lotus root compared to a potato has like 4 times more fiber. And so I realized if I were to create a chip form of the lotus root, like I had from 7-Eleven, put it in a bag, sold it in the US, 100 grams of this would give you like 6 grams of fiber, which is considered, you could call it high fiber, and it could be this, specific classification. And so I've been thinking about this for the last few days. The biggest problem is like co-packing, manufacturing, tariffs. Like if I did it, I'd want to do it completely in the US because I don't want to deal with tariffs because there's uncertainty of that. It could destroy your business if you have to deal with it. And so I'm like, okay, can I find a manufacturer that has it all? Or do I have to find a manufacturer that deals with other vegetables and I have to find the supply chain and plug it into them and have them, create the different flavorings and seasonings? So like this has been in my head and I've left it alone for the last few days because I've been really busy with other things, but it's like in my head. And that's what I was thinking about in Japan.
I love it. And when you said lotus root, I immediately went to fiber. We had an office in Singapore and I used to eat a lot of it. And so, and it's not here. I mean, you get it kind of in like Chinese food restaurants. It'll be like in a preserved, way, nothing that's kind of like probably as fresh as you'd have it. I mean, the convenience stores in Japan, Singapore, throughout Asia are great. They're so much better. They're not 7-Elevens like they don't have hot dogs and Slurpees. It's like, people actually eat there. And so, listen, I think everyone has to eat. I don't invest in the food space often. Liquid Death is the only CPG company, but I love the space. I just don't specialize in. And so do it. Like if you're, how I handle businesses, I let them sit. As Cass would tell you, I have 100 business ideas a day and I get very excited. We got to do this. I've launched some of them, not to like great success. I let them sit, let them marinate. If you're excited about it in 2 weeks after you've really thought about it and done a little research, then sit with it for another 2 weeks, talk to some people. And then if you come out of that process that you're still really fired up, do it.
Yeah. Luckily for me, I've got a few weeks where I've got a bunch of things going on for my wedding ceremony and all that. So I have to let it sit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what's the most important thing that you've learned in your life so far? We'll use that to end the conversation.
I mean, the most important thing across everything, so I'm not talking about like business cheat codes and just life, is that your network is your net worth. Treat people how you want to be treated. It sounds very biblical, but like it's true. Like give, give, give. The more you give, trust me, the more you will get back. And as I have kids starting out in the world, I just keep saying, my son Miles, who has an AI company in New York City, go to events, go to 2 a night, see how you can help. Go with a mentality of how can I help you in every conversation? And that will build a network, which will translate into your net worth. It's what I did when Gary Vaynerchuk showed up at my office. He just left his father's company and his dad didn't give him equity. I know his dad very well, and he's first generation, Russian immigrant. And he said, I have an idea to like sell social media services like I've done with Wine Library TV. I have no money. I've never made over 100 grand. I can't even afford an office. Can I use your only conference room as my office? We had 900 square feet in New York City, spending 12 grand a month. Think about that, 12 grand a month. And Gary's asking for our only conference room, and somehow Cass and I said yes, right? Because we wanted to help this entrepreneur who we kind of got a kick out of. We thought he was funny. We thought he was just like he had it, whatever it is, right? Now, it made no sense. We should have never given it to him, but he has been such an important friend, confidant. I mentor him, he mentors me. We're kind of constantly bouncing off each other. Treat every schmuck who shows up with that same respect, and you will have a really fruitful life because you may have businesses that come and go, but those people who are connected to you will always be connected to you if you treat them well. And that's been a consistent, not only in business, but personally. I'm the same friends from high school. I have the same friends from college. Like 12 of us play fantasy football, get together once a year. Seth Meyers, who has his own TV shows, is the commissioner. I think he spends more time on the league than he does on his TV show.
You went to college with him?
Yeah, we're friends from freshman year. And like, we just were two dorks at Northwestern University and just treat people well. And that's life. Like, literally, that's all life is.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this insight, I've handpicked another video for you right here on the screen. For more actionable strategies that get you real results, hit subscribe.